Don, just being able to have two guys come off the bench, and DeAndre and Ty, and having them to have chemistry already, and score 19 and 16, what does it mean for you guys, and to have them already come into the flow of your schemes and principles?
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, it just, like I always said, we're just unpredictable. You never know on a night-to-night basis where it's going to come from. You just know it's going to happen. And I think when you have two guys, Ty's been doing it for us all year. Obviously, Dre is new, but he's been doing it in Atlanta. You know what I mean? There was a couple of shots he hit tonight. I'm like, damn. Like, you know, it's like he doesn't see his defender. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's just certain things you're getting used to and figuring out. And obviously them playing together, it definitely helps with us because it's like an easy fit. Defensively, you know, both of them just continuing to make their imprints in their own separate ways. And there's no slippage. I think that's the biggest thing. There's no slippage. You can easily start them. You can easily have them come off the bench. And I think that's what gives us another spark for sure.
And he talked about how you don't, or it seems as you don't want to have two bad shooting nights back to back. What's your mindset coming into a night like tonight after another game where you didn't have the best performance that you might have wanted to?
Yeah, I mean, the first game back from break, trying to figure it out. But sometimes, you know, there were certain shots I feel like I should have made, should have been there. But, you know, the biggest thing is just, I always tell you, how do you respond? You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, I'm not going to shoot perfect every night. I'm not going to have the greatest game every night. But how do you respond? That's always been my message, and that's just something I truly live by.
Mike.
Did you know Evan was this good of a passer?
No. When I knew of Evan, it's crazy. Evan, Zay, we played pickup one time when they were in high school in LA, like when I was on the Jazz during COVID. And, you know, the only thing I knew was that he was tall as hell and could block shots. You know what I mean? I didn't really see much of his offensive game. I think the Boston series really opened a lot of eyes. I mean, obviously, Kobe and them saw the vision, but, you know, for myself, understanding that he was ready to take that leap and what he could possibly, you know, but for him, you know, being that, I'm not going to call him Jokic, but that type of role where he's being able to handle, make plays, it makes it tough. You know what I mean? You got to pressure him as a big because you got to disrupt his passing, his vision. So now if you pressure him, now he's going by you. You want him to go by you, now he's hitting threes. Like, you know, when you're able to make plays for others, it opens your game up in a whole nother level. But I didn't know he was, you know, able to do all this.
Kenny's put him and Jared a ton in the short roll, and they seem to be making the right decision 99 out of 100 times.
Mm-hmm.
When you have not just one big, but two bigs in an offense that can play that spot at such a high level, how much easier does it make it for everyone else?
I think it's a trust factor, too. Like, you know, when you make that pass, you know it's going to end up to something positive. I think that's a big thing. Like you said, it's not just one big, it's both. You know, understanding that, all right, if you want to put two on the ball, whether it's me, Ty, Darius, Dre, you know, whoever it may be, Max, coming off screen, Sam, like, you know, being able to hit the pocket and know that something positive is going to come. But it's a credit to them, you know, being able to be patient, understanding that there's going to be help coming. You know, sometimes teams just be like, all right, let the big score, you know, and next thing you know, you look up and both of them have 20 apiece with their 10 rebounds or whatnot. So that's the biggest thing. It's just an added layer of trust that we have as a group. But like I said, credit to them and credit to their work and their patience in the half row.
Chris.
Donovan, since you've become his de facto spokesperson, how's Jared Allen's hand?
He's perfectly fine. You know, he's perfectly fine.
And then what was your first impression of the front court of Dean, DeAndre, and Evan together?
Man, it was Dean, DeAndre, Evan, and then it was Isaac too, right? Isaac was out there. Oof, that was. I kept getting the ball, and I was like, man, like, I'm the smallest guy out here. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, it's a pretty, it's pretty dope. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, I know it provides a different, you know, element. If you could switch 1 through 5, we could easily still rebound, which I think is big because when you switch, sometimes, you know, you lose that rebounding edge. You make it tough. You show length, show a crowd. Obviously, this was only one game, but, you know, this is what you look to have when you make an acquisition of Dre. Obviously, Isaac and Dean, we know what they provide. We know what Evan provides. So now being able to, like I said, change coverages, do different things, and then on the offensive end, guys who can knock down shots, play in the half row. Evan can initiate, I can initiate, Dre can initiate. There's just so much you can do. But I think defensively, it definitely gives us a different look that I'm not sure we've seen since I've been here, at least. So I think it's definitely something that we can definitely utilize and continue to improve on throughout the year.
Joe?
We were talking a little bit about this privately, but with you and Darius are playing together, and then
3 guys that are 6'8" or taller on the floor, and if he splits you 2, then you might be out there with 4 guys that tall. Does playing with guys with a front court that is that big, does that mitigate the contact you get?
When you say contact, you mean like
The
physicality? No, I mean
physicality that you'll get lessened when you're playing with bigger guys.
I mean, yeah, the obvious answer is yes. I think for myself, and I think for DG as well, like I said, you're able to switch, you're able to plug the gaps. So it's different, when, it's just myself, him, or like Max, and let's say J.A. and Ev aren't on the floor. Like, we have 3 guys who are Max about 6'5", like, at the tallest. So now, the lanes are a little bit more open, but when you have Dre out there who's a 7'2" wingspan, you have Dean who's 6'10", you have Isaac, you have Ev, you have Jay, it definitely helps, for sure. It definitely allows us to, like I said, just be in space. Obviously coverages are going to be coverages, but my biggest thing is what do they see? As an offensive scorer like myself, you're not really worried about who's on the ball. It's just what's around. You know what I'm saying? And if you see, oh, man, this gap is taken up, or I really don't want to go here, it forces you to take certain shots that you really don't want to. And sometimes they may go in. Give Jalen Brunson credit tonight. He made the tough twos, you know what I mean? But sometimes over a course of a game, those are the shots we got to continue to contest and make it tough. You got to give up something. When you have length like that and you have size, that's what you want to live with.
What about on the other side of the ball? I mean, if you think about 2 or 3 playoff series here, 2 years ago with New York, or then Orlando, Boston, like what they were throwing at you.
Mm-hmm.
Playing with bigger guys.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm sure you're going to want to score a bunch of points in the playoffs. You feel like you need to, but can that be easier?
Yeah, I mean, I think what we've shown this year, it doesn't have to just be 35 for myself. I think that's what you're starting to see this year. Is like, look, like it can be anybody. You know what I mean? And then you add the fact, like I said, you throw myself out there. Obviously, me, DG, J.A., we know what that looks like. But I think, the lineup we threw out tonight, when it was myself, Dean, Isaac, Dre, and Ev, like, it can be anybody in that lineup. You know what I mean? And then it's like, do you help off Isaac? Do you help off Dean? What do you do? You know what I'm saying? Like, DG got 2 open layups because Carl's like, oh, shit, I got to run to the corner. Like, you know what I'm saying? So that's what you're creating. You know what I mean? Obviously, you guys know what I can do. You know what DG can do as far as scoring goes. But I think you add so many other layers around us and threats. It's pretty much, as a coach, you have to make a decision. You have to decide, like, okay, what do I want to give up this series? What do I want to give up this game? And I feel like for us, just continue to make sure we have answers for all those things. You're never going to be perfect, but you can try to be as close as you can.
Dan?
Along those lines, how valuable is DeAndre's self-creation offensively for you guys? He's out there just being able to go make his own buckets.
I think it's very underrated. I mean, I think, like I said, like him just taking an ISO, walking up and just shooting a 3 over guys. You underestimate the 6'9", aspect of it. You know what I mean? I think that's something that, I personally, while I'm watching him tonight, I'm like, oh, all right, the post, put him in the post, being able to play out of it. Now it's like I said, do you double him? Who are you doubling off of? You know what I mean? Like, there's just so many things that he opens up for us. He's very unique in that way. We're definitely, like I said, it's only his third game with us, fourth. So just being able to find ways to continue to, and that's why, I'm glad he's in the lineup we're playing with, because now I can find ways, all right, this is what he likes, or cool, put him in positions where he can just go make plays. I've told him 1,000 times, look, bro, like, when we're in, you don't got to just throw me the ball, like, go. Because a lot of times teams just going to deny me, and it just allows him to play pick and roll with Ev, to get into the paint on his own, because he's been doing it, as we've seen.
Is there anything that surprised you about him on the floor so far?
Yeah, I mean, he's tall. Like, obviously I played against him, but I think you're not really looking at it in that lens, you know what I'm saying? But now he's big, he has a 7'2" wingspan. I think I've said that 1,000 times, but, like, you look at it, and I really mean it in the gaps. Like, I think that's the biggest thing is the gaps are a big piece, where you have a lot of guys who can self-create in this league, who can really get to the paint and do different things. When you have a guy that can just be in the gaps, obviously we know what he is on the ball, but when he's there and then being able to get on the boards, that's something that's really unique for sure.
Darryl, that 17-point burst you had in the second quarter, I think you had 3 threes in the final 2 minutes of that half. Is that just your way to deliver the knockout punch tonight?
I think, when DG went down, it can go one of 2 ways. You can kind of allow them to kind of creep back in. It slows our momentum down. Obviously, we're feeling for our guy being out. And for myself, it was just like, man, leave no room for anything. You know what I mean? That was kind of just and the shots went in. Like those are the shots I would take. If they missed, they missed. But I think for me, it was to leave no room for, any glimpse of light. We both played last night. We're both obviously fatigued and whatnot. They went to overtime and all that. So trying to find ways to kind of, send that message. Like, look, we're here. But, in those moments, especially when DG went down, those can really change the course of a game. A team on the road looking for something to kind of change up the momentum, and then us feeling for our brother on the floor, making sure he's good, they can kind of capitalize on that. So for me, just trying to make sure we stay where we needed to be, that was the goal.
We talked a lot about the depth of this team, but the way you guys were winning, I think this was like your 14th 20-point win. You guys have piled up double-digit wins with regularity. Just what's different about you guys this year? It's one thing to be 36 games over 500, but just the way you guys have kind of gone about this and, found ways to not take your foot off the gas.
Yeah, I think you said it right there. I think when we've played these games, not allowing teams to come back, I think that's a big one. Obviously, in close games, we've done pretty well for the most part. I think for us, it's like the foot on the throat mentality. You know what I mean? Keeping the team down when they're down. That's the ultimate test. It's easy to get up. You know what I mean? Especially with the way we play. But how are we going to stay that way? How are we going to become complacent? You know what I mean? I think we've shown over this time that we aren't. My biggest test is always, can we always continue to be that group? We've responded. We were just talking about this on the plane, like, how we felt when we lost the 2 to Atlanta. How those 2 losses, and I was like, we're 2 and 3 in that stretch. And then to go lose 3 in a row, Houston, Philly, Houston, and how the mindset was completely different after that because we had already went through that phase. You know what I'm saying? Understanding we respond when we need to respond. You're getting a bunch of different things. We've won close games. We were down in New York early in the season, came back and won. DG's closed. I've closed. Ty's closed. Like, Evans closed. You know what I mean? So there's just so many things we're learning. We're not perfect, but I think, as if we had to really look at ourselves in the mirror, we know we're pretty happy with where we're at, but there's a lot more for us to continue to grow. But the biggest thing is just no level of complacency, whether we're up, whether we're down, still trying to be the best team we can be.
So, before the game and then after, Kenny mentioned that you guys remember that Knicks series from 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So could you talk about that? Is that still bugging you guys?
I mean, I don't want to say that just because I'm appreciative of it. I will look at it like that. I think for myself, for us as a group, you needed that. You don't see us get to this point. You don't see the hunger in Darius Garland. I mean, you see it, but you don't see the chip on his shoulder. Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, myself, Isaac Okoro, Dean Wade. If we don't, quite frankly, get embarrassed by New York, you know what I mean? I think those experiences are humbling. Those experiences are needed. I don't think we look at it as like, man, we need to kick their ass because they beat us. I think for us, it's more like, at least I look at it as like, I'm appreciative. It sucks to lose. You know what I mean? In the moment, I probably wouldn't say, I'm appreciative we lost. But looking back at it, this is pretty much, obviously not pretty much, but like close to the same core guys that were there and experienced those, I don't want to call them blowouts, but rough performances. You know what I'm saying? And, they have the rebounding, what do you call it, disparity? Like the rebounding disparity, that series. It basically got out-toughed. And now you look at where we've all grown as a unit because of that. I'm definitely appreciative of it. I don't really have a revenge type feeling. It's more so like this really is shaping us to be who we are. You don't just make a trade for myself and shit just clicks. Like it doesn't really, it doesn't always happen like that. You have to go through those times. And that's kind of been my mindset on it. I don't really have any other feelings on it more so than like I'm appreciative of it because it's really helping us continue to be who we want to be because we can have something to fall back on and remember of how shitty that felt, to be honest.